Hi, this is Dan Sullivan. I'd like to welcome you to the Multiplier Mindset Podcast. So in this episode of the Multiplier Mindset Special Edition, we're going to look at a transformation of a family business in Scottsdale, Arizona by Anthony Spinato, and dealing with probably one of the diciest issues in all of the entrepreneurial world. How do you successfully transform a family business in the sense that you pay enormous respect to what's already been created by the family that came before you, and yet you include them in the breakthrough to an even bigger and better company in the future?
My name's Anthony Spinato. I'm an entrepreneur in the restaurant business. But honestly, if you were to come into our office, our restaurant, I don't consider myself in the pizza business or in the restaurant business. I say I'm in the people business. I try and make sure I see everything as it's about people rather than about a specific product. I mean, what we do is we make award-winning pizza, but why we do it is for guests. I've been in the family business since 1974, started in 1974. I was born in 75, so kind of born into it. Had the opportunity to go out and do whatever I wanted. That was a great thing. My dad didn't say you got to do this or that. And so I went out and checked out a bunch of different jobs and realized how special owning and kind of being in your own business was. There were a lot of relationships that we had made, which I enjoyed. So that's what really drew me in. But what I love about it is that every entrepreneur probably does, and I realized this at a young age, is it's just the opportunity, the challenge, and you can take it where you want it to go rather than just follow. I just like to lead it and create direction and follow that vision. I didn't finish college for this. I was managing a restaurant while trying to finish a degree or get one, and I couldn't do both. So then I left college just to help within our business and then just read constantly. I was just trying to figure out, take a small family business and create structure. And we had all the heart stuff in it, the who we are and why we do it and the service and the love for people. But it was missing and lacking structure. And I think without that, I was lacking confidence. I believed we can do it. I believed in the product, but I just didn't know how to do this in a bigger scale, how to grow it. It was actually my financial advisor who said, I know where you want to go with this. I know what you're trying to do. You need to go to strategic coach because you need that. And he knew my dad and he knew the old Italian kind of simple guy that he is. So I started here and right away, entrepreneurial time system just kicked my butt right away. It was like, schedule your time off first, right? And how we never do that. We're the last ones to get time off and then we feel guilty about it. So it started speaking to kind of these, like the guilt that we too often feel, and it made me feel more like this is the way you're supposed to do it. This is the key to the next step. And then once we got to strategy circle and impact filter, these were all just the processes of thinking through things that we didn't have to analyze growth and decision making. It was more we were doing it off of like, just does he have integrity or does she have integrity? You know, your intuition or how do you think this looks? And really just being able to have just a format, a process. And it's almost backwards. Like they said, we're retraining your brains. You're going to identify what the obstacles are, your results first, then lay out the obstacles, and then you can figure out the solutions. That's ingenious. You know, that's just too good to be true and too simple, but real. So the impact filter was another thing to understand what you really want to get out of this and to lay out those key strategies, but then to be able to say, here you go. Now you have some top line things that you need to deliver, but it's all the details and the process is up to you. And it created this like, hey, I can delegate. My mind could be in these things, but I don't have to be doing it from A to Z. The big one I think that changed our landscape, just the entirety of our business, was the DOS. I used that to sit down and propose buying into our family business to my parents. My sister and brother-in-law and my wife and I, we went through the entire DOS and laid out the dangers and the opportunities and the strengths, and then we created an impact filter and used that as a presentation to my parents and say, this is why we think this is right. And my dad and mom, not that they were offended by us approaching them, but it was why hadn't they approached us? We knew we would inherit it, but we didn't want that. We want to be a partner. And I just didn't know how to approach that with grace and respect but with clarity. And both of those tools really helped define that. And then when we rolled it out to my dad, he was elated, and it just was so clear as to what's behind it, because we just wanted to make sure he knew the truth in it, and it helped really clarify that. So every class, sometimes you don't know what you're going to get, but you know you're going to get something that you would never think of yourself, but that's going to be extremely impactful. And I think whether it's in your business or in life, and I think most of the stuff always applies to both. I've realized that from the beginning. This is a whole life thing, not just a business thing. I think personally, it's confirmed a lot. I think sometimes as entrepreneurs, you have this mind that's just going a million miles an hour, and sometimes you just wonder if you're a little crazy. Like, oh, am I being a little crazy here? But when you can take and use these tools and create something that's real and simple, you start to know that you've got some good things there. So it confirms or affirms that you've got, I think, the right mind and some belief in yourself, and then gives you that confidence. I think that's where the transformation came, is just in the last 2 years, what that confidence has brought into our business, and where I've been able to utilize that to influence and really spell out and communicate what the next steps were, that are huge steps for a smaller family business, to acquire some real estate, to build out a couple of our businesses internally for like our family headquarters, our corporate headquarters, as well as 2 different kitchens, one for our retail kitchen and then the one that supplies the restaurants. And it's a multi-million-dollar project, and it's something that we've never done. We don't borrow money, so we're borrowing money for this. So that transformation brought us to that. I brought that to our family and said, this is what I think, and this is why, and did a DOS on that as well. I think it's absolutely going to change the path and the course of our business forever. I think this is that we're going in a completely different direction than we ever have, and there's more opportunity to impact the type of food and what we can do for our restaurants. Our retail business, we can now go nationwide and be able to really grow that, and then just have the space to teach and train and mentor and communicate as our family headquarters, our corporate environment. So none of that would have ever happened. And it's not a shameless strategic coach plug. It's a reality that when I reflect on it, without this program, I would have probably either never thought of it or let that opportunity pass, because I would have thought it was too big for us. That's one of the things I realized, I think 2 sessions ago, is I'm in the place, in the dream, working in this arena that I dreamt of, but I'm in it now. I'm doing these things in these ways where I almost couldn't believe it. Not that I didn't think I was capable, but it was surreal. It was really different to me to be like, I'm here, and wow. And so I've got the program really to be thankful for that. It's an investment that you can't afford not to make. That might sound cliche or simple, but it just changes you. It forces you to think differently, but it's not complex. It's such simple solutions that every time I see one of these new handouts, I'm like, why didn't I think of that? I mean, I'm in the restaurant business. I've been able to apply everything to our business, and it's a whole life investment. You're giving yourself the time off. You believe that that's what's right. My wife, my kids benefit from it. My family life, me, I just enjoy life in general much better. And then that pours into what I do at work and how I do it. But it just helps you multiply. It helps you to let go, and I think that's the hardest thing for a lot of entrepreneurs and businesses. And then you create more people who think like you, who know how you think, and that's where that 10 times opportunity comes in. Even if you just double, that's significant. But the opportunity to really grow your business, but have the freedom within it, I think that's the other key, is we don't ever think we're going to be free from it while we own it. I could go on vacation now, and the phone, I could just do not disturb or turn it off and not worry about a thing. I can go home when I need to and really just have that peace that I never had before. And I think that's the hardest thing to overcome, but that's where the tools help really instill the confidence, not only in you, but in your processes, in your business, and in your team, so you can step away and enjoy life.
Anthony's story is really a terrific one from 3 aspects. Number one is the word respect, and that is respect for what people have created for you over decades before you entered on the scene. And this was real work. I mean, they created something from nothing. Anthony's parents went out there on their own and they created a business, one that was totally successful in the time when they did it, and they developed a tremendously good product, and they had a very, very loyal client base. They did it strictly on their own. They didn't have a lot of the advantages of being an entrepreneur in today's age. And to show respect for that, going back and actually identifying all the good things that have been created that will last forever, I think that's a very good step. You've got to have respect for what people have done before you, especially if it's a family business and they're your parents. The second aspect about it is the specific use of my favorite tool in Strategic Coach, which is the impact filter. The impact filter is just the greatest way to take advantage of what already exists, identify where there's a brand new opportunity, and show that there's going to be a systematic approach to the future which lays out the absolute specifics of the improvements and the breakthroughs that are going to happen, and does it in such a way that it takes a half hour to write the impact filter, and it takes people about 5 minutes to understand it. And in all the time, and I've done over 1,500 counting, I counted them several months ago, I've done 1,500 impact filters since the tool was created. And in every case where I've done my thinking beforehand, the purpose of what I'm proposing, the importance of why this new approach will add so much to what's already been created, the ideal result, the best that can happen if we do take action, the worst that can happen if we don't take action. But then most importantly, the success criteria of actually going through and saying, when this new approach is successful, it will have this 8 characteristics, and each of the characteristics is measurable. And that's such a fantastic way to communicate something where the entire context, in some cases, as in Anthony's case, he has to take into context all the years of value that were already created by his parents, and he's not diminishing that value, he's not subtracting from that value, he's using that value to multiply into a better future by adding this new approach. And I think the third thing is that by showing respect and using the impact filter, this becomes an ongoing document that you can keep going back to, and you can keep adding dimensions to the impact filter. So it's a working document that manages the growth into the future, but in a way that everybody totally buys in, and everybody understands exactly how the new approach is going to be measured into the future, which in this case was a huge success. And I just love this story. So much confusion, so much complexity can be avoided up front simply by taking an existing situation and improving it and doing it in such a way that everybody feels appreciated, everybody feels included. Their value that's already been created will only be multiplied in the future. So if you want to create a success like Anthony has created here, there's a blueprint that we've created, and it's in ebook form. You can download it immediately, and it's called The Self-Managing Company. So go to selfmanagingcompany.coach and download this great blueprint for the future, regardless of what future you're planning.